All right, here we are for our last sentence pattern. We covered noun, verb, noun linking verb, noun linking verb, adjective, noun, verb, noun, where the second noun is a direct object. And now we're looking at noun, verb, noun, noun. And I don't remember if we were able to cover this in class. I know I assigned some homework for that week that we were gone. So you might be a little clueless. And if you're clueless, it's because I didn't cover it very well. So I want to talk about it now. In sentences like this, you have your subject noun. You have a transitive verb. You don't have to remember transitive because it will be obvious whether or not the verb will carry the action. The next noun is an indirect object, and then we have the direct object. Now let me explain a little bit the philosophy or the thought patterns behind this kind of sentence. So again, we always start with the verb. Let's start with the verb gave. Let's do me. I like being the subject of a sentence. Mrs. Pritchard, run out of room. Mrs. P gave. What did I give? What might I give you as my students? I can give you homework. I can give you a test. I know, I'll give you candy. Mrs. Pritchard gave candy. Because I like to do that. Who did I give the candy to? I gave it to my amazing Writing One students. Okay, might not be able to read the writing, but you get the gist. Here's my verb. I am giving. Who's doing the giving? Mrs. Pritchard. So I am the subject. What am I giving? So what's receiving the action? I'm giving the candy. The candy is my direct object. And what is indirectly receiving the action of the verb? So remember, the action of our verb is gave. Mrs. Pritchard's giving. What's she giving? She's giving candy. To whom is she giving that candy? Her amazing Writing One students. And that is the indirect object because they are indirectly receiving the action of the verb. Okay, let me rewrite this sentence and show you something else. Mrs. P, that's me, gave, because I'm generous, candy to her, and I'm just going to put W1S. That's code for Writing One students. Okay, Mrs. Pritchard gave candy to her Writing One students. Here's my verb. We always start with a verb. Here's my subject. What am I giving? I'm giving candy. This is a direct object. But what is this here? It is not an indirect object. I've read a couple grammar things, and some will classify this as an indirect object, and they're absolutely wrong. This right here, ladies and gentlemen, is a prepositional phrase. It's not an indirect object. Now, in the meaning of the sentence, this one up here, Mrs. Pritchard gave Writing One students candy. The meaning of it is that I'm giving something, I'm giving candy, and I'm giving it to you, my students. So the meaning is the same, but grammatically, they are not the same. The verbs are the same, subject, direct object, but in this sentence, we used an indirect object, and in this sentence, we used a prepositional phrase. Let's do another one. So you'll notice that the verb in this sentence has to be something that there can be a secondary action. Let's see, who likes to do some cooking? Susie, I don't know any Susies. Susie baked her dad a cake. So let's look at this. Where's our verb? Here's our verb, baked. Who's doing the baking? Susie's doing the baking. What is she baking? What's receiving the action of this verb? Cake. There's our direct object. Okay. Now in the sentence, what is indirectly receiving the action? Her dad. So we're going to put indirect object. Susie baked her dad a cake. Here's our verb. Here's our subject. Here is the direct object. And here's the indirect object. Now, how would you rewrite this so that you took the indirect object out and made it a prepositional phrase instead? Remember, the meaning would be the same, but grammatically they'd be different. I would put Susie baked a cake for her dad. Same verb, baked, same subject, same direct object, but this time, instead of using this as an indirect object, we put it in a prepositional phrase. They both mean the same, but grammatically they're different. So these are noun, verb, noun, noun, or subject, verb, indirect object, direct object. The indirect object always comes before the direct object. Let's do one more. Jack sent Grandma a letter. Verb, sent. Always start with a verb. Who's doing the action of the sent? Who's doing the sending? Who's doing this action? That will be your subject. There we have Jack. What is he sending? Is he sending Grandma? No, he's not sending Grandma. What's he sending? He's sending a letter. This is our direct object. Who gets to receive that letter? Who's he sending the letter to? He's sending it to Grandma. And I could rewrite that and take out the indirect object and make it a prepositional phrase instead. And I would write, Jack sent a letter to Grandma. Same idea, the same action is happening, the same thing is getting sent, it's getting sent to the same person. In this sentence, we used an indirect object. In this sentence, verb, subject, direct object, and what's this? This is a prepositional phrase. Okay, so we had noun, verb sentences. We had noun, linking verb, noun sentences. We had noun, linking verb, adjective sentences. We had noun, verb, noun, or noun, subject, verb, direct object sentences. And now this final sentence pattern, noun, verb, noun, noun, or subject, verb, indirect object, direct object. And that is our sentence pattern review.